Today marked my third wedding anniversary with my husband, Noah. Yet, he chose this very day to tell me he was marrying his true love, Evelyn, and divorcing me. Olivia, I'm going to marry Evelyn. Noah stood before me, holding Evelyn's hand, his voice as firm as if announcing a momentous decision. I was in the middle of organizing the new quarter's financial statements. Hearing his words, my pen paused for a few seconds before I resumed signing the document. So, what status do you intend to give Ms. Evelyn? I asked, without looking up. Noah froze, clearly not expecting such a calm reaction from me. Olivia, didn't you hear me clearly? I said I'm going to marry Evelyn. I put down my pen and looked up at them. Evelyn was clinging tightly to Noah's arm, her eyes glinting with triumph and provocation. I heard you perfectly. I leaned back in my chair. So, you want me to be the one to file for divorce? Noah looked somewhat awkward. Olivia, our marriage was a family alliance to begin with, and you know how I feel about Evelyn. Feelings? I scoffed. Noah, do you really think it was feelings that saved the Vance family from ruin 3 years ago? 3 years ago, the Vance family faced bankruptcy after a failed investment. It was the Kingston family's $5 billion investment that allowed the Vance to regain its footing. And I, the sole heir of the Kingston family, gave up my career abroad because of this strategic alliance, returning home to assist Noah in managing the company. I know the Kingston family helped us a lot. Noah's voice carried a hint of guilt. But is right, a business alliance isn't meant to have true love. Now that the Vance family is stable, we can pursue the lives we truly want. My gaze shifted to Evelyn. Ms. Evelyn certainly understands the principles of a business alliance. Evelyn lifted her chin, looking completely self-righteous. Noah and I are truly in love. A union like yours, built on interests, is doomed to fail. And what's more, she added, a note of bragging in her voice, I'm carrying Noah's child. As the father, Noah is naturally responsible for us. I picked up my pen again and signed my name on the last page of the document. Then congratulations to you both. Noah saw me signing and, assuming I was processing divorce papers, immediately relaxed. Olivia, I knew you'd be the most understanding. After the divorce, I'll give you a substantial. I cut him off. Who said I was signing divorce papers? I closed the document and handed it to my waiting assistant. Chloe, deliver this stock transfer agreement to the legal department. The transfer needs to be finalized this afternoon. Noah's face instantly blanched. What stock transfer? The group's 51% controlling stake has just been officially transferred to the Kingston. I stood up and straightened my clothes. According to the investment agreement from 3 years ago, the Kingston family has the right to reclaim its investment and take over company control under specific circumstances. That agreement was already, Evelyn shrieked. Invalid? I smiled sweetly at her. Did you really think I was too foolish to know about your little schemes? Noah's face was ashen. Olivia, what are you doing? I walked over to the office's floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the Vance below. From now on, I am the chairwoman of the Vance. And you too, you can take your love and your child and go live the lives you want. Evelyn was trembling with rage. Olivia, you can't do this. Noah has sacrificed so much for this company. I turned, my gaze icy. Squandering the Kingston family's money? Using the Kingston family's connections? Or leveraging the Kingston family's resources to support you, the other woman? Evelyn started to advance, but Noah held her back. Noah took a deep breath. Olivia, we can talk. This company means a lot to me. It means a lot to you, I said, sitting back in my chair. But it means even more to me. After all, his was bought with my family assets. A knock came at the office door, and my assistant, Chloe, entered. Ms. Olivia, the stock transfer procedures are complete. Also, security department personnel are waiting outside. I nodded. Let them in. Several security personnel entered the office, standing by the door, awaiting instructions. Mr. Noah, Ms. Evelyn, my voice reverted to a businesslike formality. Please leave my office now. From today, this space belongs only to me. Noah still tried to plead. Olivia, can we really not talk about this? I can. There's nothing to discuss. I had already picked up my document and resumed working. Chloe, show them out. Evelyn was still yelling something about unfairness, about legal action, but I no longer paid her any mind. Power, after all, is never maintained by sentiment. Noah thought marrying me would secure his position as CEO, but he never realized that I was the one who truly held control all along. After and Evelyn were escorted out by security, the office finally fell silent. I pressed the intercom. Chloe, notify all department heads, meeting in the conference room in half an hour. Understood, Ms. Olivia. Ms. Olivia, the title certainly had a nice ring to it. Soon, the department heads of the Vance began arriving in the conference room. Their gazes held a complex mix of emotions as they looked at me. After all, yesterday I was still Noah's wife, and today, their new boss. Everyone, I understand today's changes might seem sudden, I said, taking the head seat and scanning the room. However, I want you all to understand that these changes will be beneficial for the company's development. Eleanor, the chief officer, spoke up. Ms. Olivia, we are all aware of your capabilities. The company's performance growth over the past 3 years has been remarkable. Thank you for your affirmation, Ms. Eleanor. I nodded. Now, I need your cooperation on a few matters. First, personnel adjustments. I looked at the HR manager. All of Noah's confidants, including several managers he personally hired, can process their resignation today. The HR manager looked hesitant. Ms. Olivia, won't such extensive personnel changes affect the company's normal operations? No. I pulled a list from my folder. I've already prepared a list of replacements. These are all experienced employees who were previously marginalized by Noah in management, and they're very familiar with the company's operations. Robert, the marketing, couldn't help but ask, Ms. Olivia, what about Mr. Noah? He no longer has any connection to the company. My voice was calm. If anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. The conference room immediately fell silent. I continued, secondly, business adjustments. I've noticed the company recently took on several unsuitable projects. These projects not only offer meager profits but also pose significant risks. Which projects are you referring to, Ms. Olivia? Eleanor asked. The commercial complex project from Summit, and the chain hotel project from Forest. Hearing Forest, everyone in the room seemed to understand. Robert cautiously stated, Ms. Olivia, the Forest project was personally negotiated by Mr. Noah, and the contract has already been signed. The contract can be terminated. My voice held no hesitation. Forest has cash flow issues. Partnering with them now would be digging our own grave. As for Summit, their construction permits are problematic, and continuing to work with them would be detrimental to our reputation. But in that case, we'll face penalties for breach of contract. The penalty for breach of contract will be handled by the legal department. I stood up. Sometimes, it's wiser to cut losses than to stubbornly hold on. The meeting lasted over an hour, and I meticulously arranged every detail. After the meeting adjourned, Eleanor stayed behind. Ms. Olivia, there's something I'm not sure I should say. Go ahead, Mr. Noah. He won't let things go easily. Eleanor's expression was worried. He's been running the company for so many years, and his network is quite complex. I smiled. Do you think I'd be afraid of him, Ms. Eleanor? It's not about being afraid. Eleanor shook her head. It's that he might resort to unscrupulous methods. You need to be careful. Thanks for the warning. I gathered the documents on my desk. However, I think he's the one who needs to be careful now. Eleanor looked at me, puzzled. I didn't explain, because some things were still too soon to reveal. At 3 in the afternoon, Chloe knocked and entered. Ms. Olivia, there are many reporters downstairs asking to interview you about the management changes at the Vance. I wasn't surprised. Have the PR department handle them. Just say that the company is operating normally, and there's nothing else to add. That evening, when I returned home, I found Noah had already moved out. Martha, the housekeeper, was the only one left in the large mansion. Madam, Mr. Noah moved all his things out, Martha said, somewhat uneasy. He also asked me to tell you that he doesn't want the house. The house was always mine. I changed my shoes and headed to the living room. Martha, please continue to work here. I'll have accounting directly deposit your salary into your account. Thank you, madam. Martha breathed a sigh of relief. I sat down on the sofa, picked up the remote control, and turned on the TV. The news channel was broadcasting today's business news. The anchor, in a professional tone, announced, significant personnel changes have occurred today at the Vance, with the Kingston officially taking over as the controlling shareholder. Just then, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Sophia. Olivia, I just saw the news. What happened? Sophia's voice was filled with concern. Noah wanted a divorce, so I took the company back. I explained the situation simply. Sophia was silent for a few seconds on the other end of the line, then let out a curse. That jerk. You worked your butt off helping him for 3 years, and this is how he repays you? It's pointless to talk about it now. I leaned back into the sofa. Besides, it's for the best. It saves me from wasting any more time. Aren't you sad? Sophia's voice sounded worried. Sad about what? I countered. Sad for someone who isn't worth it? In truth, I did feel a sense of loss, but it was overshadowed by relief. For 3 years, I had played the role of a supportive wife, carefully safeguarding Noah's ego and silently handling all sorts of problems for him. Now, I could finally be myself again. So, what are your plans now? Sophia asked. Focus on business. My tone was firm. The group is just the beginning. I knew you wouldn't be defeated by a minor setback like this. Sophia laughed. Just let me know if you need any help. Sophia worked in investments and had an extensive network, so she could indeed be helpful in crucial moments. After hanging up, I was about to head upstairs to rest when my phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. Ms. Olivia, this is Mr. Walter, chairman of Forest. A middle-aged man's voice came through the phone. Evelyn's father? Mr. Walter, calling so late, is there something urgent? It's about the collaboration project between our 2 companies. I heard you intend to terminate the contract? I won't beat around the bush. Forest's financial situation isn't suitable for continued collaboration. Ms. Olivia, I believe there might be some misunderstanding. Mr. Walter's tone was very polite. Perhaps we could meet in person and find a way to resolve this? Misunderstanding? I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the night view outside. Mr. Walter, business partnerships are about profit, not favors. If group can prove its financial strength, then of course I'd be willing to continue our cooperation. Then how about we have lunch tomorrow? I'll bring the fin. Sile statements and proof of funds. All right. I agreed. You set the time and place, and I'll have my assistant contact you. After hanging up, I couldn't help but smile. Mr. Walter's call surely wasn't just about business cooperation. Chances were, Evelyn was behind it, egging him on. But I was curious to see what tricks the father-daughter duo had up their sleeves. The next morning, the company's personnel adjustments were largely complete. Several of Noah's confidants had processed their resignations, and the new management team had begun their work. The entire process went more smoothly than I expected, suggesting that dissatisfaction with Noah ran deeper than I'd imagined. At noon, as arranged by Mr. Walter, I arrived at a very upscale restaurant in the city center. Mr. Walter was already there, seated by the window. He was likely in his late 50s, well-preserved, and looked quite spry. Ms. Olivia, I've heard so much about you. He stood up and shook my hand. You're too kind, Mr. Walter, I replied. After we were seated, the waiter served our meals, and we exchanged pleasantries about recent industry developments. Ms. Olivia, to be frank, I invited you to lunch today because there's a personal matter I wish to discuss. Mr. Walter put down his cutlery, his expression turning serious. It's about Evelyn and Noah. He looked into my eyes. I know this situation has been difficult for you, but since the young ones have developed feelings, I believe the adults should support them. Support them? I slowly cut into my steak with a steak knife. Mr. Walter, are you suggesting I should voluntarily step aside? Ms. Olivia, you're a smart woman, you should understand that a forced union rarely brings happiness. Mr. Walter's tone was somewhat persuasive. Moreover, your marriage to Noah was a business alliance from the start. It's better for everyone if you go your separate ways now. Then, Mr. Walter, who do you think should manage the Vance after we separa? I asked. Noah, of course, Mr. Walter said without hesitation. He's managed it for so many years, he knows the company best. I couldn't help but laugh. Mr. Walter, didn't your daughter tell you that the controlling stake in the Vance is already in my hands? Mr. Walter's expression shifted. Ms. Olivia, Evelyn mentioned something about this. But I think you're acting out of spite. Spite? I put down my cutlery. Mr. Walter, I used $5 billion of the Kingston family's funds to revive the Vance. Now, reclaiming control, you call that spite? Mr. Walter's face completely fell. I continued, Mr. Walter, let's be straightforward. You came to me today because you want me to give the Vance back to Noah, isn't that right? I just hope everyone can achieve a positive outcome, he said slowly. And what price are you prepared to pay, Mr. Walter? I met his gaze. You can't expect me to give up such a significant asset for nothing, can you? Mr. Walter was silent for a moment, then said, if Olivia is willing to support them, I can consider offering compensation in other areas. For example, Forest could establish a deeper collaborative relationship with Kingston. I nodded. That sounds promising. But, Walter, are you certain Forest has the capacity for that? Upon hearing that, Mr. Walter's expression became distinctly uncomfortable. It seemed Forest's financial problems were more severe than I had anticipated. After lunch, Mr. Walter had clearly not achieved his intended objective. He looked displeased as he left, tossing a parting shot. Ms. Olivia, don't push things too far. I didn't respond, just offered a polite smile. Back at the office, Chloe hurried to meet me. Ms. Olivia, the owner of Summit is here in person, waiting for you in the conference room. He says he needs to discuss the contract termination with you directly. I glanced at my watch. It was 2:30 p.m. Let him wait 10 more minutes. I need to handle a few other things first. The owner of Summit was Gary, a 40-something nouveau riche. He had a poor reputation in the industry, frequently delayed payments to suppliers, and had been involved in several legal disputes. Noah had taken on this project purely because of the substantial kickback Gary offered. 10 minutes later, I walked into the conference room. Gary was seated there, accompanied by 2 tough-looking subordinates. Ms. Olivia, I've heard much about you. Gary stood up, a fake smile plastered on his face. You're too kind, Mr. Gary. I sat down opposite him. I hear you're here about the contract? That's right, Ms. Olivia. Our contract was going perfectly, why the sudden termination? Gary's tone was somewhat displeased. Is this really the proper way to conduct business? Mr. Gary, business partnerships rely on integrity. I took a survey report from my folder. However, to my knowledge, Summit has serious issues with its construction permits. Gary's face changed. What issues? Falsifying construction permits, expired safety licenses, and environmental impact reports for several projects were simply bought. I read each item. Mr. Gary, the Vance cannot afford the risks of partnering with someone like that. Ms. Olivia, who told you this? Gary's voice grew agitated. Market rumors can't be taken seriously. It's not a rumor. I pushed the investigation report across the table to him. These are the findings of a professional agency, in black and white, perfectly clear. Gary picked up the report and scanned it, his face growing increasingly grim. One of his subordinates whispered something, but Gary waved a hand for them to be silent. Ms. Olivia, even if there are minor issues, we can resolve them gradually, can't we? Gary forced another smile. After all, we've been collaborating for so long, you should give us a chance, right? A chance has already been given. My stance was firm. The contract is terminated. That's the final decision. Ms. Olivia, I advise you to be more cautious. Gary's tone grew somewhat threatening. I have a lot of friends, and offending me won't do you any good. I glanced at the 2 subordinates beside him and couldn't help but smile. Mr. Gary, are you threatening me? Not a threat, a warning. Gary stood up. Ms. Olivia, business is a battlefield, and sometimes making too many enemies is unwise. Thank you for the warning, Mr. Gary. I pressed the button on my desk. Chloe, show him out. Chloe entered with several security personnel. Gary took in the scene and ultimately didn't cause a scene, but before leaving, he looked back at me with a malevolent glare. After they left, I instructed Chloe to notify the legal department to expedite the contract termination process. At the same time, I called Sophia. Sophia, could you look into Gary from Summit for me? I need his detailed information. What's wrong? Is there an issue with him? More than just an issue, he's likely to cause trouble. I briefly explained what had just happened. I understand, those types are the worst. Sophia's voice was serious. I'll send you the information tonight. Also, be careful recently, people like that are capable of anything. After hanging up, I began to consider my next strategy. Dealing with someone like Gary head-on would definitely lead to trouble. But showing weakness was also not an option. It would only make him think he had an opportunity. The best approach was to strike first. At 4 in the afternoon, Eleanor, the chief officer, knocked and entered. Ms. Olivia, there are some irregularities concerning the cash flow of the Summit project. She placed a financial statement on my desk. This advance payment of $5 million is unaccounted for. I carefully examined the details, my brows furrowing deeper. When was this money transferred? 3 months ago, exactly when Mr. Noah signed the Summit project contract. Eleanor's expression was grim. And the transfer records show the recipient was a shell company. So, this $5 million was likely a kickback? Very likely, Eleanor nodded. I believe it's necessary to investigate further. I thought for a moment. Keep this confidential for now, just between us. Tomorrow, I'll have the audit department assist you in thoroughly investigating all of Noah's suspicious transactions from the past 3 years. Understood. After left, I sat in my chair, carefully considering the implications of this matter. If really took a kickback on the Summit project, then things just got interesting. Not only would it explain why he insisted on pursuing this clearly problematic venture, but it also gave me an opportunity to counterattack. The next morning, just as I arrived at the office, I received a call from Sophia. Olivia, I've sent Gary's information to your email. This man is more troublesome than you think. I opened my computer to check the email, and my expression grew more solemn with each line I read. Gary not only engaged in various illegal business practices but also associated with unsavory characters. Most importantly, he had a powerful patron, Richard, the deputy of the city planning department. What's Richard's background? I asked Sophia. Richard has been in the city planning sector for over 2 decades and wields significant power. Gary secured many of his projects through Richard's connections. Sophia's tone was serious. And I heard that Richard is very protective of his people. Anyone who targets his associates will definitely face retaliation. It seems Gary truly has reason to act with impunity, I mused, formulating a counter-strategy. Olivia, should you consider finding a mediator? After all, making too many enemies is unwise. Mediation? I laughed. Sophia, do I look like someone who would proactively seek reconciliation? I knew you'd say that. Sophia sighed. Then be careful. People like him will use any means necessary. After hanging up, I began to seriously consider my countermeasures. Since had Richard back. Him, I needed to find an even more powerful patron. I picked up the phone and dialed a number. Uncle, it's me. Olivia? What made you think of calling your uncle? William's hearty laugh came through the phone. William was my mother's younger brother, currently the deputy of the state commission. Although we rarely kept in touch, he would absolutely help me in a crucial moment. Uncle, I've run into a bit of trouble and was hoping you could offer some guidance. What kind of trouble? Tell me about it. I meticulously explained the situation with Gary and Richard. William was silent for a moment after listening. Olivia, I know Richard, he is indeed a problematic official. But don't worry, he won't be able to cause trouble for long. What do you mean? The ethics has been investigating corruption within the city planning sector recently, and Richard is on that investigation list. William's tone was confident. Within a month, this man will get into trouble. So, what should I do now? Do nothing, just observe the situation. William chuckled. However, if Gary genuinely tries to cause you trouble, you can counterattack appropriately. That could certainly use some evidence. I understood Uncle's implication. If voluntarily came looking for trouble, it would be the perfect opportunity to catch him in the act. Around noon, Chloe rushed into the office. Ms. Olivia, we've got trouble. A lot of people are downstairs claiming to be from the regulatory agency, saying they need to inspect our construction permits. I frowned. Our company isn't a construction firm. Why would they be checking our construction permits? They said they received a complaint alleging irregularities in our summit project. Gary moved faster than I expected. Have the legal department handle them and cooperate with the inspection according to standard procedures. I stood up. Also, notify the finance department to prepare all relevant documents. Yes, ma'am. Chloe was about to leave when I called her back. Oh, and have the PR department prepare a statement. If the media comes for interviews, tell them we are fully cooperating with government inspections and that the company operates legally and compliantly. Understood. After dealing with that, I picked up my phone and called Eleanor. Ms. Eleanor, how's the investigation into Noah's accounts coming along? Ms. Olivia, we've made a significant discovery. Eleanor's voice was excited. Not only the summit project, but the forest project also has issues. We've uncovered a total of 15 million in suspicious financial flows. Is the evidence conclusive? I asked. Bank transfer records, contract documents, invoices, we have it all, Eleanor affirmed. And we also discovered that these funds ultimately flowed into Noah's personal account. Excellent. I thought to myself. Compile all the evidence into a complete report. It's already being compiled and will be finished by tomorrow morning. Then we'll hold a press conference tomorrow afternoon. I decided. Since someone wants to play, let's play big. At 3 in the afternoon, the regulatory agency's inspection concluded. As I expected, they found no issues, because the Vance was not a construction company and had no direct involvement in the Summit project's construction quality. However, the incident created a considerable stir in the media, with many beginning to question the Vance's operational status. At 4 in the afternoon, Evelyn arrived. Olivia, you win. Her voice was calm. I was somewhat surprised. What do you mean by that, Ms. Evelyn? Noah has agreed to break up with me. Evelyn's eyes were a little red. He said he didn't want to burden me anymore. He actually has such self-awareness? I said with a smile. Don't celebrate too soon. Evelyn suddenly looked up, a hint of malice flashing in her eyes. Do you think everything's fine just because you dealt with Noah? What do you mean? I was a little puzzled. Olive. Do you really think I'm just a simple pampered heiress? Evelyn sneered. Let me tell you, when I studied abroad, I majored in finance and law. I watched her silently, waiting for her to continue. I've uncovered some secrets about your Kingston. Evelyn's voice turned sinister. For example, how your father made his fortune back then, and whether your family's money is truly clean. At those words, my expression finally changed. Are you threatening me? Not a threat, a deal. Evelyn regained her composure. You return the Vance to Noah, and I'll pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, I'll ruin the Kingston family's reputation. I stared at Evelyn for a long moment, then suddenly smiled. Evelyn, do you know what kind of person I admire most? What kind? She asked, puzzled. Someone brave enough to threaten me. I leaned back in my chair. Unfortunately, you don't quite make the cut. Since you're so confident, then go ahead and try. I stood up. I'd like to see how much trouble you can stir up. Evelyn rose, grinding her teeth. Olivia, you'll regret this. After she left, I immediately called Uncle and recounted our conversation. Olivia, your father's old affairs were too long ago. Even if someone wanted to investigate, they wouldn't find anything. William's voice was calm. Besides, everything back then was completely legal, so you don't need to worry. I'm just afraid she'll spread baseless rumors. Rumors are even easier to deal with, William chuckled. Ever heard of defamation? I hung up the phone, suddenly feeling a surge of anticipation for tomorrow's press conference. The next morning, Eleanor promptly delivered the audit report to my office. It was a thick stack of materials, detailing Noah's various illicit dealings over the past 3 years. Ms. Olivia, the situation is more serious than we imagined. Eleanor's expression was grave. Besides the summit and forest projects, several other projects also have issues. I flipped through the report, each page fueling my anger. That jerk, to have embezzled so much money. A total of approximately 23 million, and the methods were very discreet. It would have been difficult to uncover without a thorough audit. Is the chain of evidence complete? Complete. Bank records, contract documents, financial vouchers, nothing is missing. I closed the report. Excellent. We'll use these materials for the press conference this afternoon. At noon, Chloe rushed in. Ms. Olivia, Noah is here, causing a scene in the lobby downstairs. Causing a scene? He brought a lot of reporters, claiming he wants to clarify the true situation of the Vance, and accusing you of malicious acquisition, harming shareholder interests. I couldn't help but smile. He really will try anything. Ms. Olivia, should I have security escort them out? No need. I stood up. Since he wants to make a scene, let him. Notify all department heads to gather in the lobby on the first floor in 10 minutes. Huh? Chloe looked puzzled. This afternoon's press conference is being moved up to now. I picked up the audit report. It will temporarily be held in the lobby. 10 minutes later, I led a group of executives to the first floor lobby. Sure enough, Noah was there, confidently speaking into the cameras. Olivia maliciously acquired the Vance purely out of personal vendetta. This is extremely detrimental to the company's development and severely harms shareholder interests. Mr. Noah, a rather dramatic performance, I said, walking up to him with a faint smile. Noah saw me and visibly froze for a moment, but quickly recovered. Olivia, perfect timing. I'm just clarifying the truth to the media. I glanced at the surrounding reporters and said, that's excellent, because I also have some facts that need clarification. Then I motioned for Eleanor to hand over the audit report. Regarding the financial irregularities of the Vance's former CEO, Noah, during his tenure. At those words, Noah's face instantly changed. Chloe, please get the projector equipment ready, I told my assistant. Soon, a projector was set up in the lobby. I projected the first page of the audit report onto the screen. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, allow me now to present the true financial state of the Vance. Reporters aimed their cameras at the screen. First, the Summit Project. I pointed to the data on the screen. An advance payment of $5 million was made, but only $3.5 million was actually used for the project. The remaining $1.5 million went into former CEO Noah's personal account. Impossible. Noah rushed forward, trying to stop me. These are all lies. You're defaming me. Defamation? I pulled out the bank transfer records. These are official documents from First Bank, Mr. Noah. You can verify their authenticity on the spot. Camera flashes erupted, and Noah's face grew increasingly pale. Next, the forest project. I flipped to the next page. The total project budget was $8 million, but financial records show actual expenditures of only $5.5 million. The difference of $2.5 million also flowed into the former CEO's private account. And this. I presented evidence page by page. Over 3 years, former CEO Noah misappropriated a total of $23 million from company funds. The room erupted in an uproar. Noah was completely flustered. These are all fabricated charges. Olivia faked this evidence to get revenge on me. Faked? I looked at the reporters present. You can all go to the relevant banks to verify the authenticity of these transfer records. A reporter raised a hand and asked, Ms. Olivia, after discovering these issues, did you report them to the police? Of course. I produced a document. This is the evidence package I just submitted to the Economic Division. I believe it won't be long before former CEO Mr. Noah receives a subpoena from the relevant authorities. Noah's face turned ashen, and his body began to tremble when he heard this. Olivia, you're trying to ruin my life. I'm simply protecting the legitimate interests of the company and its shareholders, I said calmly. Mr. Noah, taking responsibility for your actions is a fundamental principle. But we were once married. Precisely because of that, I gave you 3 years of leeway, I interrupted him. But tolerance doesn't mean indulgence, and betrayal doesn't give you free rein. Reporters captured everything. Noah knew the battle was lost and slumped to the floor. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, this is the situation today, I said, facing the camera. The group will actively cooperate with the judicial investigation, and we will also take all necessary measures to recover the misappropriated funds. Furthermore, I want to clarify a rumor, I continued, my tone turning serious. Some have claimed I acquired the Vance due to personal grievances, which is a blatant distortion of facts. In truth, it was my discovery of the former CEO's illegal activities that prompted me to step in to save this company. After the press conference, reporters dispersed, and Noah was escorted away by several people who looked like lawyers. Chloe walked up to me. Ms. Olivia, your move was brilliant. Now everyone knows exactly what kind of person Noah is. This is just the beginning, I said, tidying my documents. The real show is yet to come. At 3 in the afternoon, I received a call from Gary. Ms. Olivia, congratulations, you handled that beautifully. His tone sounded somewhat ingratiating. What do you mean by that, Mr. Gary? I was thinking there might have been some misunderstandings before. Regarding the contract termination, perhaps we can discuss it properly. I smiled. Mr. Gary, isn't it a bit late to talk about negotiations now? Ms. Olivia, business is all about cooperation and making money together. I'm willing to bear a portion of the penalty for breach of contract. How about we meet halfway? Meet halfway? My tone grew old. Mr. Gary, why didn't you suggest meeting halfway yesterday when you sent people to investigate my company? Silence hung on the other end of the line for a few seconds. Ms. Olivia, are you trying to drive me to ruin? I'm just following procedure. I glanced at my watch. Oh, and Mr. Gary, I hear the regulatory agency has been quite busy lately. There might be other inspections coming up. What do you mean? Nothing in particular, I just think some of Summit's projects could certainly use a thorough inspection. I hung up the phone, feeling quite pleased. It was Gary's turn to feel nervous. The next morning, Sophia called, her voice excited. Olivia, your impromptu press conference yesterday was absolutely brilliant. The whole city is talking about it now. What's the reaction like? The vast majority support you. Everyone's saying Noah deserved it, and that a con artist in business should face legal consequences. Sophia laughed happily. Some are even calling you a business heroine, ridding the public of a menace. I couldn't help but smile. The business heroine title is quite interesting. Oh, and I heard something else. Sophia's tone turned mysterious. Richard was taken in by the state commission last night. That fast? I was a little surprised. Uncle said it would take another month. Apparently, they received new evidence, and it was conclusive, so the state commission had to act sooner than expected. I thought for a moment. The timing is quite a coincidence. Indeed it is, Sophia said meaningfully. Gary was also apprehended by the authorities last night, reportedly for suspected bribery and falsifying permits. It seems Uncle acted faster than I expected. Olivia, you're completely safe now, Sophia said, her tone relaxed. Noah and Gary are too preoccupied to cause trouble, and Evelyn alone won't be able to stir up any trouble. Is that so? I thought of Evelyn's threat yesterday. I still think she might make a move. What kind of move? What kind of trouble can one young woman stir up? No sooner had she spoken than Chloe rushed into the office. Ms. Olivia, some unfavorable news about you has appeared online. I hung up with Sophia and told Chloe to open the computer. On the screen was a post from a business forum, with a glaring title, Unveiling the Kingston's Rise, the About the Nouveau. I quickly scanned the content. It mostly questioned the source of my father's startup capital when he founded the company, implying that the Kingston family's initial capital was questionable. Are there other similar posts? I asked Chloe. Yes, they've appeared on several websites, Chloe said, her expression worried. And they're spreading rapidly, many people are already sharing and commenting. I picked up my phone and called Uncle. Uncle, someone is spreading rumors and defaming the Kingston family online. Can you help deal with it? I've already seen it, William said calmly. Don't worry, this kind of malicious defamation is easy to handle. I've already instructed the cyber monitoring department to investigate. Can they find out who posted it? They're investigating. However, judging by the posting methods, it appears to be operated by a professional online smear campaign firm. I hung up the phone, almost certain this was Evelyn's doing. Chloe, contact our legal counsel. Prepare to sue these websites and individuals spreading the rumors. Yes. Also, have the PR department prepare a clarification statement, detailing the Kingston's development history. After handling these matters, I began to consider a counter-strategy. If wanted a cyber war, I would play along to the very end. At 2 p.m, my personal assistant, Lisa, rushed in. Ms. Olivia, Evelyn is here. She says she has something important to discuss with you. Let her in. A few minutes later, Evelyn walked into the office. She was dressed formally today, in a black business suit, exuding the aura of a formidable businesswoman. Olivia, have you seen the news online? She asked, getting straight to the point after sitting down. I have, I said, leaning back in my chair. Ms. Evelyn, your tactics are certainly cunning. This is just the beginning, Evelyn sneered. I have even more interesting material in my possession. For example, that transaction your father had with a Japanese businessman back then, or some of the Kingston's early illicit gains. A triumphant gleam flashed in Evelyn's eyes. If these were exposed, the Kingston's reputation would be utterly destroyed. I watched her silently, saying nothing. Olivia, I'm giving you one last chance, Evelyn leaned forward. Return control of the Vance to Noah, and I'll pretend none of this ever happened. Evelyn, I suddenly called out to her. Do you know what it means to lose more than you gain? What do you mean? I picked up a document from the table. This is the forest's latest financial report. According to our investigation, your company is already insolvent and is applying for bankruptcy protection. Evelyn's face changed. How could you possibly know this? Business is a battlefield, knowing yourself and your enemy ensures victory, I said, opening the document. The group owes $80 million to the bank, $30 million to suppliers, and has negative working capital. Ms. Evelyn, what do you have to fight me with? Evelyn's voice trembled slightly. Furthermore, I discovered something interesting, I continued. The group has serious financial fraud issues, including inflated profits and concealing liabilities. As a shareholder and executive of the company, Ms. Evelyn, you could be held legally responsible for such actions. Evelyn completely panicked. What are you talking about? Talking nonsense? I pushed the document toward her. This is a formal audit report from a certified public accounting firm. It's all in black and white, clear as day. Evelyn picked up the document and scanned it, her face growing increasingly grim. Olivia, what do you want? I don't want anything, I said, sitting back in my chair. I just think, Ms. Evelyn, that before threatening others, you should first consider your own situation. Then what are your terms? She said slowly. It's simple. My tone turned serious. First, immediately stop the online rumors and issue a public apology. Second, never appear before me again. Third, if I discover you engage in any further actions detrimental to the Kingston, I will immediately report the forest's financial fraud issues to the relevant authorities. Evelyn sat there, her face ashen, unable to speak for a long while. Ms. Evelyn, how are you considering my offer? I glanced at my watch. I'm only giving you 10 minutes. I agree, Evelyn said softly. But you have to promise not to actively attack the forest. As long as you stay in your lane, I have no interest in going after a company that's nearly bankrupt. Evelyn gritted her teeth and stood up. Olivia, you're ruthless. I appreciate that, I said with a polite smile. Chloe, please see our guest out. After left, I immediately instructed the PR department to monitor online activity. Sure enough, in less than an hour, the posts defaming the Kingston began to be deleted, and the accounts spreading the rumors were also blocked. After taking a deep breath, I called Sophia, asking her to help me look into potential high-quality investment projects. Oh? Starting new ventures? Sophia said with a laugh. The group was just the beginning. My ambitions go far beyond that. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the entire city. Since I'm starting fresh, I might as well go big. Sophia's voice grew even more excited. Give me 3 days, and I'll compile a detailed investment report. After hanging up, I suddenly remembered something. Noah should have been taken by the police by now, but he was once my husband. Before the legal proceedings were complete, I felt I should go see him. Not because I still had feelings for him, but because I wanted to see his current state with my own eyes. The next morning, I went to the city police department. Noah was held in a holding cell. Through the glass window, I saw him sitting inside. He hadn't shaved in 3 days, his hair was messy, and his eyes were hollow and lifeless, completely devoid of his former vigor and ambition. Olivia, you're here. Seeing me, a flicker of hope appeared in Noah's eyes. Are you here to bail me out? I looked at him through the glass. Noah, do you really think that's possible? Olivia, I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Noah's voice was choked with sobs. Please, forgive me this one time. I swear I'll never do it again. My voice remained calm. You embezzled over 20 million. This is a crime, not a simple moral issue. But I haven't spent that money yet. It's all still in my account. I can return all of it. And returning it will make everything okay? I shook my head. Noah, you're too naive. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, what about Evelyn? How is she? Evelyn? I thought for a moment. She's probably busy dealing with the forest's bankruptcy. Bankruptcy? Noah looked at me in shock. How is that possible? Nothing is impossible, I said, standing up to leave. Noah, make better choices. Olivia, wait. Noah pressed his hands against the glass. Our relationship. Is it truly not worth saving at all? I stopped and looked back at him. Noah, something like love became worthless the moment you chose betrayal. A month later, Noah was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The forest officially declared bankruptcy, and Gary and Richard were also sentenced. The entire incident finally concluded. As for me, I had already begun planning my new business empire. Ms. Olivia, the projects Sophia brought are all very promising. Eleanor placed the investment analysis report on my desk. Especially the new energy project, it has broad market prospects. What's the capital requirement? About 1.5 billion, Eleanor said. However, the return on investment is also considerable, with a projected 3-year payback period. I carefully reviewed the report. It's worth considering. Have the legal department draft the investment agreement. I'll meet with the other company's owner tomorrow. Also, Eleanor said, flipping through the documents, all misappropriated funds from the Vance have been recovered, and the company's cash flow is robust. Excellent, I nodded. Divide these funds into 3 parts, one for new project investments, one as operating capital, and the remainder placed in the bank as a fixed deposit. Understood. After left, I sat alone in my office, contemplating future plans. The group was just the starting point. My goal was to build a true business empire. Real estate, finance, new energy, high-tech. Every promising sector needed to be involved. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, may I speak with Ms. Olivia? A young man's voice came from the phone. Yes, who is this? My name is Julian, chairman of Horizon. I've long admired your reputation, Ms. Olivia, and would like to invite you to dinner to discuss potential cooperation. Horizon? I thought for a moment. It was a recently emerging investment firm, rumored to have deep connections. You're too kind, Mr. Julian. When would be convenient for you? If Olivia has time, how about this evening? That works. At 7 in the evening, I arrived at the upscale restaurant. Julian was already waiting for me there. He looked quite young, in his early 30s, dressed impeccably, and possessed a refined demeanor. Ms. Olivia, I've heard much about you. He stood up and shook my hand. Mr. Julian, you're too kind. After we were seated, the waiter served our food, and Julian poured the wine. Ms. Olivia, to be honest, I truly admire your entrepreneurial journey. Julian raised his wine glass. To transform from a wife in a strategic alliance to a powerful figure in the business world, that's not something just anyone can achieve. Mr. Julian, you flatter me, I said, clinking my glass against his. It was merely forced by circumstances. Forced by circumstances? Julian smiled. I believe it's Ms. Olivia's inherent talent at play. Some people are simply destined for great things. We chatted over dinner. Julian spoke with great acumen, and his analysis of market trends was very insightful. Ms. Olivia, I invited you to dinner today because I do have a cooperation proposal, Julian said, setting down his cutlery, his expression turning serious. What proposal? I'd like to partner with Ms. Olivia to establish a new investment fund, specifically for investing in high-growth potential companies. How would that work, specifically? I asked, feeling interested. Horizon will contribute $2 billion, and the Kingston will contribute $1 billion, to jointly establish a $3 billion investment fund, Julian explained. Horizon will be responsible for capital and channels, while Kingston will handle project selection and management. Sounds good, I said after a moment of thought. However, I'll need to understand the specific background of Horizon. Of course, Julian replied readily. I can arrange for you to visit our company for a site inspection, and all relevant documents can be provided. Then let's agree on this for now. I'll make my decision after the inspection. No problem. After the dinner, Julian proactively escorted me to my car. Ms. Olivia, regardless of whether our cooperation succeeds, I'm delighted to have met you. His expression was sincere. Powerful businesswomen like you are truly rare in the business world. Mr. Julian, you flatter me. Back home, I carefully pondered our conversation. Julian left a good impression on me, but business is a battlefield, and impressions aren't everything. I needed more information to determine if this partnership was worthwhile. The next day, I asked Sophia to help me investigate Horizon's background. Olivia, this Julian comes from a prominent family, Sophia quickly informed me of her findings. His father is a provincial leader, his mother is a renowned entrepreneur, and he himself holds a master's degree from abroad. What about the source of the funds? Mainly family funds, and some are from his overseas investment returns, Sophia replied. Overall, it's relatively clean and seems to have no issues. Then this cooperation is worth considering, I decided. Help me arrange a time for me to visit Horizon for a site inspection. 3 days later, I arrived at Horizon's office building. It was a newly constructed office building, luxuriously decorated, and the employees all seemed very professional. Julian personally greeted me and gave me a tour of the entire company. Ms. Olivia, this is our investment team, he said, introducing the various departments. They are all top talent recruited from renowned investment firms. This is our risk management department, responsible for project risk assessment. And this is our legal department. After the tour, Julian led me to his office. Ms. Olivia, what are your impressions? Very professional, I affirmed with a nod. It's clear, Mr. Julian, that you are very sincere. Then, regarding our cooperation, it's worth considering, I said. But I have a few conditions. Please state them. First, investment decisions require mutual consent to be executed. No problem. Second, management fees and profit distribution will be proportionate to capital contributions. Reasonable. Third, I demand the right to veto any investment project. Julian considered this for a moment. That condition is a bit strict, but I can accept it. Then it's settled, I said, standing up and shaking his hand. Pleasure working with you. Pleasure working with you. A month later, the Kingston Fund was officially established. Addition. I served as the fund's managing partner, fully responsible for investment decisions and project management. The first investment project was the previously identified new energy company, with an investment of $1.5 billion. Swarms of reporters gathered at the signing ceremony. Ms. Olivia, what are your plans for the future of the investment fund? A reporter asked. Our goal is to become a top-tier investment firm in the country, I said into the camera. We aim for assets under management, AUM, of $10 billion within 3 years, and $30 billion within 5 years. Isn't that goal a bit aggressive? Business is a battlefield. If you're not aggressive, you miss opportunities, I replied with a confident smile. And I believe, with the capabilities of our team, this goal can certainly be achieved. The news broadcast generated significant public reaction. Many entrepreneurs proactively contacted us, hoping to seek investment cooperation. 6 months later, the Kingston Fund had successfully invested in 8 projects, spanning new energy, high-tech, healthcare, and other sectors. 3 of these projects had already begun to turn a profit, with returns exceeding expectations. I had finally established myself in the business world and built my own influence. A year later, in spring, I stood in the top-floor office of the newly occupied Kingston Tower. This 42-story office building, our first real estate investment, had now become the city's new landmark. I overlooked the bustling city below, and memories of betrayal from a year ago flooded back. If time could rewind, would I still choose to forgive Noah? The answer was a resounding no. For some, betrayal wasn't destruction, but rather my greatest salvation. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.